Hello everyone, thank you for joining us here today for our regular Thursday lecture. My name is Victoria, I'm your regular lecturer, and today we have the pleasure of covering a very exciting topic. We're going to talk about the ways and methods of computing together a winning graduate application. Our students often ask about which part of the application package is most important and how to make themselves stand out among all the other applicants. This session is specifically tailored to guide you through finding a suitable graduate program, funding, scholarships, and how internships can benefit you. Today, we have our wonderful guests joining us today, representatives of Geroge Washington University, who will help you answer some of your burning questions and help you master your graduate application. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And Owen, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. And for those who didn't catch that, my name is Owen Griffin. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions and Recruiting here at the Geroge Washington University, specifically sitting currently in the School of Business. I've been here for about almost 5 years now, which is incredible to say. Very happy to be joined here today by colleagues and friends. So again, thank you all for being here. So we're going to, I think, get into things here and talk a little bit about how the application process works. We're going to talk about the university. We're going to talk about the different program offerings that we have here, as well as, ways to navigate international admissions, hurdles and challenges, and talk a little bit about funding as well. But before we kind of dig into all of that, I just want to take a second and recognize that I know for folks who are in this presentation, perhaps, watching later, wherever you may be, that studying abroad and specifically studying in the United States at a place like the Geroge Washington University in Washington, D.C. is a dream for many. We're cognizant of that. And I know that, while it can seem like an insurmountable dream that's impossible to realize, our job here as admissions officers is really to help you into the school, right? We're here to help you with this process. We're not a wall, we're an open door. And so, if you are interested in joining us here at a premier university in the heart of the nation's capital, we're happy to have you. And I should just say, as an alumnus of this university myself, as well as an employee, I have also sat here on the National Mall and threw my hat into the air when I graduated. My wife is an alumna of the program as well here at a program at the school. So, we're a Geroge Washington University family, and we're looking forward to having you here as our colleagues and fellow alumni. So one more time, just to go over the agenda. So my colleagues and I are going to talk about the university in general, the program offerings here that we have on the graduate level, how international admissions processes work, and, a little bit more information about funding as well. And, we can take questions throughout this presentation. We'll be answering questions, I believe, at the end of the presentation. So happy to field any questions that you have about that. Now, one of the neat things about GW is that there are just so many different things you can do here. This is a school that is heavily focused in theory, but is also a place for practitioners. And this sort of spans the whole gambit of program offerings here. We say that, the only at GW experience you can get here is really more than a hashtag. It's the way we do things here. We're here in the heart of Washington, D.C. We provide our students with opportunities and experiences unlike anywhere else. In the classrooms here at GW, you'll be sitting next to peers from all over the world and learning from faculty members who are not just experts in their fields, but who also are world-famous artists or policymakers, dignitaries, business individuals, right? These folks who we pull in from the tops of the fields that you want to study. And we bring them into the classroom and we offer them to you. But the learning doesn't just stop in the classroom. It doesn't just end when the class is over. There's a reason you want to be here in the heart of DC, in the heart of the nation's capital, because there's an ambience of learning that happens here. The learning is a part of everything you do, whether it's grabbing lunch or a coffee or going to a happy hour or a networking event. You'll be able to use the resources and leverage the resources that we have here at the Geroge Washington University to make meaningful connections and learn from everyone around you and forge a path forward for yourself that works how you want and when you want it to. You might find a dream internship at a nonprofit on K Street or at the White House, who knows? You'll be contacting and communicating with folks who are city leaders, government intellectuals, policymakers. You might even study on the steps of the monuments that our tourists flock to. One of the most popular things for our students to do is to gather and study on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. This is what will be able to offer you and what you'll be able to use to really define yourself as a professional as you move through the program and then out of the program into your career afterwards. You're not just going to live at the center of our nation's capital, but you'll learn here, and it'll be a key part of your path forward. Graduate students, they come to George Washington University because the ideas that you have access to, what you have access to here in terms of the exploratory elements of your education, the extraordinary potential that you'll have to make a real world impact. If you have a passion for making a difference, you belong here. GW students leverage a vast network of influential partnerships and research initiatives. They hone their leadership skills, and they put their knowledge to work. We're not just about making you good students. We want to make you good employees and people who are ready to take on the challenges of the day. And this is a dedicated and very engaging intellectual community. We are bound by our shared commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion across the board. Now, one of the key things that you've heard me talk about a lot is sort of where we are, Washington, D.C. Now, we are right here in the center of Washington, D.C., about 4 or 5 blocks away from the White House. We are, like I said, in the heart of our nation's capital. We have unparalleled access for our students and our faculty to experts, facilities, and world-class resources. And this isn't just at George Washington University, but this is at some of the nation's, in the world's, I should add, most preeminent research institutions. We have a world-renowned faculty and institutional partnership program, a set of programs here. And we collaborate with different corporations, research facilities, government agencies, and international organizations, including the World Bank, the National Institutes of Health, the Smithsonian Institution, the Libraries of Congress. The list goes on and on. When you walk around campus, you'll frequently find yourself, bumping elbows with individuals who work at the International Monetary Fund or the International Finance Corporation. And this is the caliber of network and community that you'd be entering into here. So it's pretty remarkable. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about here is obviously the monuments, the National Mall here. There's the Capitol building. DC is a beautiful place. It's a pleasant place to be. But most importantly, again, because we could talk about the city all day, why it's nice to be here, what you'll have access to. But I think I'm going to mention briefly, I'm going to go through and talk about some of our different colleges that you'll have access to here and some of the preeminent programs before I hand things off to Tanya to discuss admissions policies and information on how to actually get into the program. So we have our Columbian College of Arts and Sciences, and I think this is a good moment to mention the fact that GW really is a research hub. GW faculty members and their graduate students carry out cutting-edge research and scholarship across a wide array of disciplines. And you can see here, I need to actually advance the slides. Sorry, folks. Here we go. And you can see here that there is a very long list of programs you can choose. In this one college alone, we foster cross-disciplinary research. We investigate some of the world's most complex challenges, and we partner with local community-based organizations, city leaders, private industry, federal institutions, and academic peers in the U.S. and around the world. We're actually home to multiple National Institutes of Health funded training grants in biomedical and health sciences. And at GW, we continue to make substantial investments in our research enterprise. We have state-of-the-art facilities, instrumentation, collections, and other resources that ensure that we not only meet the needs of our faculty and students as they investigate our world, but we help them also develop new lines of inquiry and unearth unprecedented discoveries that do make a huge impact and ultimately change the world. Here's the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. This is actually right down the street from where I'm sitting right now. It's an incredible building. The resources that our students have access to at these institutions is just really remarkable. Here we have among the Elliott School of International Affairs. We also have the School of Business. If you have any business school questions, again, I'm probably one of the best people to answer them because I'm an alumnus and I work here. So very excited to talk about that if you'd like. We have a preeminent law school, one of the top ranked law schools in the nation here at George Washington University. And we also have a very strong College of Professional Studies, a School of Medicine and Health Sciences as well. We also have, last but not least, our School of Nursing and the Milken Institute of Public Health. And I think Tanya is probably better prepared to talk to you about the School of Public Health if you do have any questions about that. So what I'll do now is I'm actually going to pass things over to Tanya to talk a little bit about the admissions process and how things work from a logistical perspective in terms of getting into the program, how the funding works, and how to sort of navigate the processes that'll get you in here. So thank you so much for listening to my bit. Again, happy to answer any questions that you have at the end of all this. Tanya, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate having this opportunity to present with my colleagues at GW, as well as to get to know students that are interested in applying to graduate school. One of the things that I think is really important for you to know is that the tips that we're giving you might be specific to GW. However, there are a lot of commonalities as you think about applying to graduate school that you can take away from here and use at other institutions. So first and foremost, when you're applying for graduate study at GW, certainly you're going to pick a program of interest. You're going to review the program-specific admissions requirements. Some programs want to have writing samples or personal statements. So there's little specific things that you might need to submit for different programs. You're going to gather all of your supporting materials together. So writing those essays, writing those personal statements, finding those writing samples that you might have done in graduate school if you're applying to a PhD program, or from your undergraduate experience if you're applying to a master's program. And then you'll submit your application. So GW does have a centralized portal that you can use for most of the graduate school applications at GW. Some of the schools, like the medical school, the law school, and the School of Public Health, do have a consolidated application system that will save you some time and some money, because the consolidated application portals allow you to apply to multiple schools and submit your documents just once to the kind of centralized portal. Each school is going to have different deadlines that you'll need to keep track of. The most important thing about applying to graduate school is that you stay organized to make sure that you don't miss those important deadlines for admissions or for scholarships. I know funding was very important for me for all of my educational experiences, so you don't want to miss out on opportunities for funding because you've missed a deadline. I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so we've got a lot of information squeezed into a very condensed slide. In general, while the specifics are going to vary by program and school, but it's bigger now, thank you. There are some general requirements that are going to help you prepare. The information that appears above is going to be pertinent to applicants to the following schools at GW. So the College of Professional Studies, Columbian College of Arts and Sciences, Elliott School of International Affairs, the Graduate School of Education and Human Development, the School of Business, School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, Medicine, Health, and Nursing. So I did mention that the Milken Institute School of Public Health, Law School, and the medical program do have some slightly different requirements and processes. So you're going to complete your application on either the GW website or the specific institutional website. You're going to need to submit transcripts from your experiences. So your undergraduate, or as applicable, your graduate degrees. So for students that did receive degrees in countries other than the US, you will need to have them evaluated by there's kind of a centralized organization for credentialing, for reviewing international credentials. We want to be able to give you the best information possible. We want to be able to give you the best review possible. So by having your transcript reviewed by a third-party organization, they're going to translate it into English for us, and they're going to give us an explanation about what your courses and your grading systems mean, so that we can give you the best review possible. In addition to that, we're going to need to have a statement of purpose. Some places call it a personal statement or a statement of purpose. Whatever they call it, what we want to do is we want to get to know you. In many cases, that statement of purpose is really your opportunity to speak directly to the admissions committee. For a lot of the schools at GW, you're also talking to the professors who would be teaching you in their classes. And I think that makes a difference because you're literally speaking to the professors who could eventually be the people that are grading you, that you're going to be learning from as you're going through your academic journey. So again, really talk about your passion for whatever subject you're applying to, your journey from undergrad, or even your journey from high school into undergrad into the graduate field world. We want to know what passion and interest you're going to be able to bring to our community. That's really important to us because we're able to bring in students that are going to contribute the most to our classroom environment, as well as the GW community at large. Next, you're going to need to have recommendations. Most institutions want 3 recommendations. They can be of academic or professional in nature. And sometimes that depends on how long it's been since you were in undergraduate. So for example, if you were applying to graduate school and you're still a current college student, then probably your recommenders are going to be your professors, the people you've been interacting with during your undergraduate experience. If you've been out in the workforce for several years, or like some of us, 10 and 20 years, then perhaps your letters of recommendation will be more of a professional nature, maybe a supervisor or someone that you've done research with. Maybe you're a huge volunteer in your community and one of your recommenders is from a volunteer site that you've worked with. So please pick people that can speak about you as a person, but also you as a professional and an academic. Those tend to be the best recommendations that we see as we go through the admissions process. Now, standardized testing. During the pandemic, we had a lot of changes with standardized testing. A lot of schools, including most of the professional schools at GW, we were able to waive the testing requirement, or we became test optional. So normally students would need to submit either a GRE score or a GMAT score in order to gain admission. During the pandemic, we actually did a pilot where we were waiving the GREs or allowing students to not submit them. Owen, can you drop in a little bit about how you all handled testing scores during the pandemic and currently?
Yeah, absolutely. So for many of our programs, testing became fully optional. And what we told individuals, and what we still to this day, because for most of our programs the test is still optional, GRE and GMAT scores are still optional for most of our programs, is that you need to think about exam scores when they are optional like this as value adds, right? Every element of your application, because at GW we take these very holistic reviews of the application where we're exploring the different values of different elements of the application as it pertains to the specific candidate in question. Every single part of the application adds value differently. So if you think that there are elements of your application that are perhaps weaker and that a test score may add value to that application, then by all means, feel free to submit it. This is when it's optional. When it's not optional, you obviously have to do it. And there's going to be specific program information. Now, I'm not sure how it works at other colleges at GW, but at the business school, when folks indicate that they're interested in applying to a program, they're contacted almost immediately by an admissions officer here on the team. And the communications will sort of detail what specific components of the application are needed, which ones are optional, and which ones are not needed at all. So again, if it's going to add value, then feel free to do it. If you think that your application is super strong and it really doesn't need any more value, if the test is optional, then our policy, sort of standing policy, has been to say, don't worry about it.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Owen. That's wonderful. And we feel very similarly, at least at the master's level. Now, when we're talking about doctoral programs, PhD programs, a doctorate of public health program, or medical degrees or law school, those are programs that still require standardized testing. So for our PhD programs, we do need to have GRE scores. For the medical school, you do need to submit MCATs. And then for the law school, you do need to submit LSATs. And so again, that's why it's important to be organized and to reach out to the individual schools to find out what the individual requirements are. Additional items that you might need to submit might include resumes or a CV. We want to know what you've been doing in your professional life. And so a resume is a great way to highlight those activities that you've engaged in outside of the world of academics. You might be able to submit or need to submit a proof of a specialized certification, writing samples, or other supporting documents to make your application more complete. And again, as Owen mentioned, as value added. Very often, if we've had students that have been published in academic journals, they're going to submit a copy of that journal article. That's an impressive accomplishment, and certainly our faculty members love to see those extra accomplishments.
Okay. If I could just also really quickly add, Tanya, just so for some of our programs where work experience is required, a solid resume is very important, right? So, not all of our programs at the School of Business, for example, do require work experience, but our full-time global MBA does. And so this is one of those cases where having a good resume is going to really matter, right? So, this isn't just a thing that you can throw together in 5 minutes and just submit. Put some thought into this. Every piece of the application matters. There's no part that matters less.
That's great. Thank you for adding that, Owen. That's very helpful. The next slide is going to talk about some of the specific things that international students would need to submit in order to have their application complete. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about English test requirements. So GW does require that students can demonstrate English language proficiency. There are a couple ways to do that. So students who did not complete a post-secondary degree from a regionally accredited U.S. institution do need to submit a test of English proficiency, but you've got several options. You can submit the TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language, the IELTS, or the Pearson test of English academics. We also, for the School of Public Health, we also accept the Duolingo English test. So you have several different options. Was that Owen, you do that as well?
Yes, we do. We also accept the Duolingo here at the School of Business.
Awesome. And so some of the schools at GW do, and some are still doing research to determine whether that's a good addition for their programs. Basically, we want you to be as successful as possible, and that's why we're asking for those English proficiency scores. They can be waived if a student has taken a degree or received a degree from a U.S. institution. And so those are things that we can discuss on a case-by-case basis. English language scores are only good for 2 years, and that differs from other standardized testing. So for example, the GRE, the GMAT, MCATs, LSATs are good for 4 or 5 years, but the TOEFL or other English language proficiency scores are only good for 2 years. So please keep those dates and deadlines and expiration dates in mind. We do have some minimum language scores that are required. And so there's 2 levels of scores. There's both the GW levels of scores, and then there's school-specific scores. So for example, on the TOEFL, GW requires a minimum of an 80 on an internet-based test, but for the School of Public Health, we require a minimum of 100 on the TOEFL. And so that's something to keep in mind, that the university has some information and then schools might be a little bit different. Oh, and I believe for the School of Business, it's a score of 100 as well.
That is correct. And there's, again, on a school by school basis, this changes. So at the School of Business, if you score less than a 100, in some instances, you may still be admissible, but you might have to take an extra English class in your first semester, right? So there's going to be, again, on a case-by-case basis, some differences in which scores qualify for admission under what conditions. So while it may sound kind of complicated, it actually gets a lot simpler once you start a conversation with your friendly admissions officer.
That's great. Thank you for that. And then we did mention about international credentials need to be reviewed by a National Association of Credential Evaluation Services member. So there's a list of probably 15 or 20 different organizations. WES is probably the one that we see most frequently across institutions here at GW. But again, we will accept an evaluation from any of the approved association members. And it is a bit of a detailed process, and it's not something that happens immediately or overnight. So you do need to make plans to make sure that your transcripts can get to these evaluation services, and so that then it can get to us in a timely fashion. And I will tell you that I definitely have contacts at West that tell us that no matter what country you're coming from, they're able to get transcripts. So even in countries where there's currently conflict and other issues, they're still able to get transcripts because the institutions have electronic mechanisms for getting those transcripts evaluated and then sent to us. Okay. So I think we're going to go on to the costs and funding. Okay.
Everyone's favorite conversation.
I know. So we do recognize that coming to the United States for a graduate degree is an investment in time and money and resources. And we are very sympathetic about the cost of coming to the US. So we're going to provide you with as much information as possible, but we also have a wide range of very generous scholarship, fellowship opportunities for students at both the master's as well as the doctorate levels. Some of the funding comes directly from the schools themselves. Some come from the larger GW University. So we encourage you to take advantage of looking into all the different resources available. So for example, within the School of Public Health at the master's level, we have scholarships that range from about a quarter of tuition up to full tuition. And they're available to any student, domestic or international. We do not make distinctions in that regard. If the students are qualified for those scholarships after they've been admitted, then those are scholarships you're able to receive. At the doctorate level, we do have a range of fellowships as well. Some cover tuition and provide a stipend and a job. There are other positions that just cover tuition. So again, students do have a wide range of funding. Owen, do you want to talk a little bit about funding at the School of Business?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to mention in the context of like the sort of value proposition of each element of the application, because at the same time that we, consider different elements of the application individually and holistically when we're considering folks for admission to the program, we give applicants that same kind of consideration when we're considering them for merit-based financial aid from the School of Business. We do consider every single admitted student for merit-based financial aid from the School of Business directly. There's no separate application required, no paperwork or documents you have to fill out. If you are admitted, we will automatically consider you, and we will tell you when we admit you if we're going to give you anything. It'll be in your offer letter, or in some cases in a separate aid letter, depending on sort of what we're doing on a semester by semester basis, because it changes sometimes. So that's going to be one of the primary funding sources. It's going to be a percentage of your tuition, and I like to joke that it could be 0% or it could be 100% or it could be anything in between. So again, the best way to figure it out though is to get an application submitted, because if you don't submit your full application, we won't be able to tell you. So that's kind of how you figure that out from us. After that, the same resources that are available to students across the university, the Office of Graduate Fellowships and the Office of Student Financial Assistance are also available to our applicants. This is a very personalized application process, right? So, keep in touch with us and communicate to us about your funding needs. A lot of our faculty members here, especially at the School of Business and across all the colleges really, but they're very well connected. One of the things I was talking about earlier in the presentation was how, we're in the heart of DC, but we're also very connected to everything that goes on in DC. So, I have seen, again, this is anecdotal, but it's an example of what, can happen. I've seen students coming in from all over the world, to be met with part-time job offers, on campus or around DC. So there are opportunities here for those who ask. So when it comes to costs and funding, get your application submitted quickly. As soon as it's ready, so we can consider you for merit-based aid. Do your research and stay organized and look at all the funding opportunities that are available for you here. Be open and communicate to us about your funding needs, and also be proactive in looking for third-party aid as well, because there are many scholarships and grant opportunities, funding opportunities that exist outside of the GW ecosystem that are just waiting to be taken advantage of. Many of them have they have deadlines, so it's important to be on top of this. And again, just be very open and communicative about your needs here.
Great. Thank you for adding that. And I just want to let everybody know that GW really cares about its diversity here at the university. We're proud to enroll more than 3,500 international students. Our students are from 6 different continents and over 120 countries. And we really appreciate the contribution that our international students make to both the larger Washington, D.C. area, as well as the institution itself. We want our international students to be as fully immersed in the full campus community as possible. And like we mentioned, our international students are eligible for that wide range of merit-based funding. We also have an amazing, I think this actually dovetails right into the next slide, Owen. We have a huge range of academic and co-curricular support services available to all graduate students as well as our international students. And we want to encourage our graduate students to get fully immersed in the GW institution and take advantage of the supports. So we have career services. Each one of our individual colleges has a career services team that works with our graduate students. I like to point that out because a resume for business might be very different than a resume you need for a public health position at the master's level or the doctorate level. There's different things that you're going to need to have. Well, our school-specific career services people, professionals, they know how to help you craft the best resume, best cover letter, do mock interviews for the kinds of positions that are specific to our individual schools. And I think that makes a big difference. We also have a health center on campus. We have health insurance available to our graduate students. And for our fully funded graduate students, we're able to help you pay for that health insurance. We have disability support services. We have dining options here on campus. We have off-campus options. We're going to help you determine where's the best place to live. I will say that most of our students are living 2 to 3 to 4 people in a housing apartment or something like that, just to help cut down on costs. We have an extensive library system. We have 3 libraries. The students in the School of Public Health are also able to use the library within the School of Medicine. I'm not going to lie, that's a pretty nice perk about being a student in the School of Public Health, because literally it's only students from the School of Public Health and then students from medical and health sciences that are able to use that library. So there's always great spaces in order to study there. We also have an international services office, and the ISO team is amazing. They want to help make the transition to the United States as wonderful and as smooth as possible. We have an amazing learner life facility. So students are able to have an amazing gym that we actually just refurbished this past summer. I haven't seen it since it was refurbished, but I hear
it's great. I love it.
Owen says it's great.
It's the only reason I exercise.
That's funny. But you know what? If you are into exercise and fitness, there's a wide range of ways to stay healthy in DC. It is not uncommon to see people running around the campus, running in DC. You can run to the National Mall, to any of the monuments here from campus. We also have great safety and security professionals here on campus. We have shuttles and safe ride escort services. And we also care about your spiritual and religious well-being as well. Okay, so next slide. We want to stay in touch with you. Admissions people, we're friendly people by nature. We get into this field because we want to work closely with students. And so the best part of my day is getting to engage with our prospective and current students. So please feel free to reach out to us. Find out about our open houses. We have a wide range of virtual options that will allow you to engage with us. You can learn about our programs, the funding opportunities. You can reach out to us directly using the contact information here, and that information will get routed to the individual school in which you're interested in. I think that was all of our presentation, and now we are open to answer your questions.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. I immensely enjoyed it, and it was so wonderful to learn from you. Owen, Tatiana, thank you so much. It was really great to hear from you and to get an inside look into the George Washington University. So I would like to encourage our listeners here today to put down any questions you might have and get a great reply, get real insight into the programs, and to really hear about specific types of programs you're interested in and get like extra information about the application process. I have actually a question of my own, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sure.
If our students are really concerned with like application fees and the cost of just applying to universities, so I was wondering if there are any chance to maybe get a reduction or maybe even waive application fees.
So yeah, I could.
That's a great. Oh,
sorry, Tanya. Why don't you start? Then I can follow up.
okay, great. So our application process is slightly different than the rest of the university. What I can tell you is that there are two levels of application fee waivers. There are some that come directly from the organization that sponsors the School of Public Health application portal. And so students can apply to them and say, hey, here's my situation. I need an application fee waiver. So that's number one. Number two, we also offer a limited number at the very beginning of each application cycle where students who have extenuating circumstances can apply for an application fee waiver.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful answer. And Owen, would you maybe like to add something?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, when you apply, one of the things you'll notice when you apply for a school of business program is when you get to the end of the application, there's a drop-down menu where you can choose your payment method: credit card, e-check, request a waiver. So you can request an application fee waiver. The best way to ensure that you are granted one is to reach out to our team and to register for a program-specific webinar. This serves many purposes. About 98% of all questions you have about the program, the admissions and application process, and what it's like to be a student are going to be answered in that webinar. I promise. I built all the slides myself. Importantly, right at the end of the webinar, you will be provided with an application fee waiver code. It's not going to work outside of the School of Business. It won't work for the public health school or anywhere else. But if you're applying for a business program, I cannot stress enough how important it is that you register for a webinar. You're going to learn a lot, and you'll get the waiver code for the application fee. And again, this does a lot of things, but at the end of the day, like I mentioned, the best way to find out how much financial aid you're going to get is to apply. So if you get the application fee waiver code and you use that at the end of your application to waive that fee, you create a situation where the cost of finding out how much financial aid you're going to get is zero. All you have to do is have your application ready to go, and you'll be all set. So register for a webinar. That is the way you get a waiver code for the School of Business.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful answers. That was really insightful. And another question I often hear students ask is one about assistantships. So how can they qualify for an assistantship? Are there any additional requirements they may need to follow?
Yeah, Tanya, I can start on this one because this is something I deal with this all the time. I mean, look, it's a common question. How can I get an assistantship? Look, at the end of the day, RA and TA positions are available. They exist, and we have them, and our students do them. And sometimes they're not even they're assistantships that take them to work in administrative positions. We have student workers out here who are technically employed on assistantship programs who help us with our application processing and whatnot. Generally speaking, you can't apply. You have to apply for these. These are jobs, right? So you need to have a resume and a cover letter. Then you go through the application process. There's a centralized website, I believe, that has all the positions listed. But you can't really do that until you're here, right? Especially in the business school. We're not really interviewing people or taking applications from folks who haven't physically started their programs in the United States yet. So it's not going to really be something that you'll have lined up for your first semester, likely. But for your second semester, third, fourth, however long you're here, that's when it gets more likely. And again, I will stress, communication is critical. Communicate to us that you want these things so we can connect you with the faculty members who have influence. One of the programs I work with right now is the Tourism, Hospitality, and Event Management program here at the School of Business, where the faculty director is incredibly well connected with all of the students. He knows them all on a first name basis. There's a WhatsApp group that's super active where students are talking about assistantships and job opportunities, and the faculty director is connecting them to individuals around, not just around the university, but around DC. So if you communicate, if you let us know what you want, we can help you. We will never assume because we have a lot of stuff going on. So, communicate to us about your needs. Talk to us as you're applying for the program about your desires and your needs for assistantship opportunities. And we will do what we can.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful answer. That was really very helpful. And actually, another question I often get asked pertains to recommendation letters. So as Tanya mentioned, there is a requirement for recommendation letters, but a lot of students are worried that their professors or maybe like their former employers may not have a very good command of English. So they are worried if they need to provide a translation of the recommendation letter or reach out to any translation agencies. So what may be your thoughts on that? What would be the best way to go about it?
That's a great question. So here's what we're going to tell you. Number one, certainly if you can have it translated, that's great. But by the same token, we also understand that English is not their first language. So we're not going to penalize you for the quality of your recommender's English, because they probably speak English much better than I speak any other language. So, and we're pretty good at figuring out what the intention is. And so they're going to be saying positive things about you and giving us a good idea of what it is that you can bring to our community. And so we're going to look at the letter with that in mind.
Yeah. And if I can just add to that, again, from the School of Business perspective, and I don't like speaking for other colleges, but I'm never going to hold a delay in a recommendation or issues in the language of the recommendation against the applicant, right? We're not just looking at the letters at face value. We're really looking into what they say about you as the applicant, how they reflect the credentials that we can see in the rest of the application. So, there's a lot to take out of a letter of recommendation, but we'll never hold that against you because you don't have any power over, how your recommender writes or how long it takes them to do it.
Correct. Owen is definitely correct about that.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I have a final, more general question to all of you. And that would be how would you maybe describe your ideal student, or what would maybe be some of the qualities you look for outside of academic achievements?
I know for me, our ideal student is one that is passionate about their field of interest, someone that really clearly articulates why GW and why the program they're interested in. And that's regardless of whether it's at the master's level, at the doctorate level. At the doctorate level, if somebody already knows what they want to do their dissertation research on, tell us that information. How exciting is it to already know what you want to research when you're working on your PhD or Doctor of Public Health? Owen?
Well, my ideal student is one who applies for business school programs. But in all... I had to say it. But in all honesty, just to sort of echo what you said, Tanya, I think it matters a lot that you have a clear, especially on the master's level, because I don't actually review applications for PhD applicants, so I don't want to speak to that. But on the master's level, this is a huge investment, right? On multiple levels. It's an investment of time. It is an investment of energy. My hairline was a lot lower when I started my MBA, and it's an investment of resources. Okay, it's a serious investment. So we want to know that you know what you're doing. We want to see what your business plan is for this program and how this program sort of fits into your goals, both personal and professional. We want to see how you envision your growth, and not just academic and professional growth, but your personal growth as well, because I think that's an element of a graduate program that a lot of folks don't often think about, how this is going to affect you personally, not just professionally and academically. So we want to see this sort of overarching conceptualization of how the program fits into your life. Don't just say that you want to do it because your dad told you to, right? That's not a good enough reason. So that's what we're looking. We're looking for people who know what they want to do and who can contribute to this very diverse and dynamic academic ecosystem that we have here at George Washington University.
Thank you so much for your answers. That was very helpful. And I think a lot of our students can really take away something from today's meeting and have food for thought. And I'm hoping that if any of our participants here today, or maybe the people who watch this webinar after it has aired, have any questions, I might direct them to you if they're interested specifically in the study programs you represent, so that you can assist them and help them to make their dream of studying in the US a reality.
Will be absolutely.
Of course, I am always happy, and I will speak for all of us. You are welcome to reach out to us. We want to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. I immensely enjoyed talking to you, learning from you, and just getting a really inside look into the George Washington University, its system, its approach to students. And yes, so thank you very much. It's my pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you all a great day. I hope we can stay in touch and communicate as our students move closer to applying. But yes, thank you. It was my pleasure talking to you. And to all of you at home, please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any further questions. And I wish all of you a very lovely evening. Stay safe and stay with Education USA. Bye.
Thank you, Victoria. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.